guests and common listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out after 1 hour of controversy. I'm sure there's a lot of hate. Important message though. This is Listener-Funded Radio, so if you can donate, please do. Any currency is good. Really easy to do. Just go to the webpage, not Freedom Slips, revolution.radio, and just look on the page. Really easy to donate if you can, on Patreon as well. You can also donate in crypto if that's what you want to do. All good. Or, if you can't donate, please tell people about the station. That's goodness as well. Because, again, this is listener-funded radio. No other corporate or other interests, certainly not government, are supporting the station. That we know of. But I remember back in the day, there used to be a lot of military email addresses logged onto the station listening. Quite a few, actually. Dozens, in fact. .mil. Maybe, just private military people, but maybe there was some government people there as well. Who knows? We are talking about the golden ages, Dave.
That is true.
Had intimated before the break, and we're doing this because it is a lighter topic compared to the human medical experiments we spoke about last time, a lot lighter. And the golden age is a really interesting kind of term, and most cultures have them. Last week we spoke about a number of different cultures and how the golden age was sort of described there. We talked about the inordinate length of time that people lived, which was very interesting, I thought. And in fact, so long that it beggars belief. The longest here we had was like 28,000 years, 43,000 years in a reign. So clearly they lived longer, but that's how long their reign lasted. I mean, imagine ruling for 36,000 years. No, makes no sense anymore. Well, look, we'll get to that, especially when we talk about longevity. But Dave, what's next?
I don't know. You tell me where we're up to.
This is page. What does it tell me? Let's see
Yeah.
what page this is. We are 12, the Golden Age. However, in this short cycle, we shall focus on the Golden Age.
Yes, of course. I'm with you. And you didn't know I was muted for some reason. Golden Age. The term Golden Age comes from Greek mythology, particularly the works and days of Hesiod. Is that correct? That's the way I say it?
Perfect.
Yes, perfect. X. Yes. Yeah, I lost my paper. There we go. And is part of the description of temporal decline of the state of peoples through 5 ages. Gold being the first, and the one during which the golden race of humanity, in the Greek, lived. Those living in the first age were ruled by Kronos, and we know that to be time. After the finish of the first age was the silver, then the bronze, after this the heroic age, with the 5th and current age being iron. By extension, Golden Age denotes a period of primordial peace, harmony, stability and prosperity. Sounds like a wonderful time. During this age, peace and harmony prevailed. People did not have to work to feed themselves, for the earth provided food in abundance. They lived to a very old age with a youthful appearance, eventually dying peacefully with spirits living on as guardians. Plato in Cratylus 39e. Is that a page reference?
Yeah, fragmental. Yeah.
Oh, good. Recounts the golden race of humans who came first. he clarifies that Hesiod did not mention literally made of gold, but good and noble. In classical Greek mythology, the Golden Age was presided over by the leading titan Kronos. In some version of the myth, Astraea also ruled. She lived with men until the end of the Silver Age, but in the Bronze Age, when men became violent and greedy, fled to the stars, where she appears as the constellation Virgo. That was my mother's favourite. Holding the scales of justice, or Libra. European pastoral literary tradition often depicts nymphs and shepherds as living in a life of rustic innocence and peace set in Arcadia, a region of Greece that was the abode and centre of worship of their tutelary deity, goat-footed Pan, who dwelt among them. Mackie?
Very good. Just want to say a couple of things to that paragraph here, which is important. One, it was the gods before the gods. So the Titans were not the Greek gods, and they didn't belong to Zeus's pantheon. Zeus was a child of Kronos and killed. So the gods, the Greek gods, killed all the Titans and took over. It's interesting to see that the elder gods lived in a golden age, right? Whereas the younger gods that overthrew them then, promptly ended that golden age. This is very interesting. And then they still lived with the humans, though. And this is, again, across all cultures where the gods lived among us. But then, at some point, did not. And here, it seems because, we became violent and then greedy. And many other myths echo that, the flood myth, Tower of Babel. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. And from around the world as well, where the gods destroyed the world because men had become corrupt. It's really interesting how this is a common theme. There was this age of abundance and prosperity when the gods were here, so to speak, looking after the garden, as it were, that might have been Earth, and then later not. And interestingly enough, this is not to be confused with the Aboriginal Dreamtime. Okay?
That's
because, the dreaming.
Because that was much earlier.
Well, the dreaming or the Dreamtime isn't a period in history. It's always. It's always. It's just a place that we, as white folk, can't get to anymore. Aboriginals and other, I guess, what you would call more spiritual and maybe more connected peoples of the world can. The dreaming or the dream time is now and always has been and always will be. It is just a matter of accessing it. Like I said, we can't anymore. So the dream time, don't confuse the dream time with the golden age. They're two different, completely different things. When the Europeans first came here, they thought, okay, they're talking about the golden age as well. No, it's something that is now and always has been and always will. But it can't be accessed easily anymore because of the way we live. Anyway, the Golden Age in Europe, Greece, the earliest attested reference to the European myth of the ages of man, 500 BCE to 350 BCE, appears in the late 6th century BCE, which is before the Common Era, in the works of the Greek poet Hesiod's Works and Days. Hesiod identifies the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze Age, the Heroic Age, and the Iron Age. With the exception of the Heroic Age, each succeeding age was worse than the one that went before. Worse as in, there was a decline in everything, pretty much. Hesiod maintains that during the Golden Age, before the invention of the arts, the earth produced food in such abundance there was no need for agriculture, which is interesting. And this is a quote from his works. Men lived like gods without sorrow of heart, remote and free from toil and grief. Miserable age rested not on them, but with legs and arms never failing, they made merry with feasting beyond the reach of all devils. When they died, it was as though they were overcome with sleep, and they had all good things. For the fruitful earth, unforced, bare them fruit abundantly and without stint. They dwelled in ease and peace. Plato in his Cratylus referred to an age of golden men and also expounded at some length of ages of man from Hesiod's works and days. The Roman poet Ovid simplified the concept by reducing the number of ages to 4: gold, bronze, silver, and iron, so leaving out the age of heroes. Ovid's poetry, known to schoolboys from antiquity through the Middle Ages and beyond, was likely a prime source for the transmission of the myth of the Golden Age during the period when Western Europe had lost direct contact with Greek literature. In Hesiod's version, the Golden Age ended when the Titan Prometheus conferred on mankind the gift of fire and all the other arts. For this, Zeus punished Prometheus by chaining him to a rock in the Caucasus, where an eagle eternally ate his liver. So the eagle would come, eat his liver, and overnight the liver would grow back, is the myth. Now it's interesting, again, that it is a Titan that would bring fire to the people, and then punished by those that overthrew the Titans and started ruling as gods in their stead. Zeus, of course, being that. And it's a direct, in my opinion, direct relation to the myth of Lucifer and God as well as other myths of that nature, where it's a light bringer or a bringer of fire. The gods sent the beautiful maiden Pandora to Prometheus' brother Epiphanes. The gods had entrusted Pandora with a box that she was forbidden to open. However, her uncontrollable curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the box, thereby unleashing all manner of evil into the world. The Orphic school, a mystery cult that originated in Thrace and spread to Greece in the 5th century before the Common Era, held similar beliefs about the early days of man, likewise denominating the ages of metals. In common with the many other mystery cults prevalent in the Greco-Roman world and their Indo-European religious antecedents, the worldview of Orphism was cyclical. Initiation into its secret rites, together with ascetic practices, was supposed to guarantee the individual's soul eventual release from the grievous circle of mortality and also communion with gods. Now, that's just 1 second. Initiation into its secret rites, together with ascetic practices, was supposed to guarantee the individual's soul eventual release from the grievous cycle of mortality and also communion with gods. Are we understanding what's being said here? This is pretty much the Buddhist tenet of getting out of the cycle of rebirth. And this is something we've been saying in the hypothesis for the longest time. And it's now, really, Dave, that I just noticed that.
Oh, wow.
In this passage. Initiation into its secret rites, together with ascetic practices, like I always said, in order to achieve enlightenment, you have to deny yourself pretty much anything that you like. The ascetic lifestyle will get you there. It'll get you enlightenment. So anything that you find pleasurable or good in this world, you have to deny yourself. It was supposed to guarantee the individual's soul eventual release from the grievous circle, of mortality. Think about that for a second. This is coming from the ancient Greeks. Anyway, Orphics sometimes identified the Golden Age with the era of the god Phanes, who was regent over the Olympus before Cronus. So this is a god that existed before the Titans. Okay, this is getting crazier and crazier as we go along with this. In classical mythology, however, the Golden Age was associated with the reign of Saturn, which is, in fact, Kronos. In the 5th century BC, the philosopher Empedocles, like Hesiod before him, emphasized the idea of primordial innocence and harmony in all of nature, including human society, from which he maintained there had been a steady deterioration until the present. It's this innocence, again, and harmony that we find also in the Garden of Eden, which you could argue is the Christian equivalent of a Golden Age. Because, again, just like in the myths of ancient times that we've just discussed here, in the Bible, Adam and Eve didn't have to work. They didn't do anything but live and enjoy themselves and eat from the Garden of Eden and do whatever they wanted to do. There was their innocence was complete. There was no struggle. There was no toil. They just lived. So clearly, there's some kind of encoded message here, even in Christian tradition. Even in Christian tradition, that speaks to a golden age where we were, well, Dave, blissful, maybe? Anyway.
Yeah.
What's next?
Arcadia. A tradition arose in Greece that the site of the original Golden Age had been Arcadia, an impoverished rural area of Greece where the herdsmen still lived on acorns and where the goat-footed god Pan had his home among the poplars, that's a type of wood, on Mount Manalus. However, in the 3rd century BCE, the Greek poet Theocritus, writing in Alexandria, set his pastoral poetry in on the lushly fertile island of Sicily, where he had been born. The protagonist in Theocritus's first battle, the goat herder Daphnis, or is taught to play the syrinx or the panpipes by Pan himself.
That's all yours.
Yeah, the Golden Age in Rome, Virgil and Ovid, writing in Latin during the turbulent period of revolutionary change at the end of the Roman Republic, roughly between 44 and 38 BCE. The poet Virgil moved the setting for his pastoral imitations of Theocritus back to an idealized Arcadia in Greece, thus initiating a rich and resonant tradition in subsequent European literature. Virgil, moreover, introduced into his poetry the element of political allegory, which had been largely absent in Theocritus, even imitating in his 4th eclogue that a new golden age of peace and justice was about to return. And Meki, you can do the Latin for me.
Okay. Ultima cume venit iam carmenis aetas, magnus ab integro seclorum nascito ordo, iam redit et virgo redeunt Saturnia regna, iam nova progenis caelo demitur alto.
And the translation?
Now the last age by Cume's Sibyl sung has come and gone, and the majestic roll of circling centuries begins anew. Astrea returns old Saturn's reign, with a new breed of men sent down from heaven. Pause.
In Ovid's Metamorphosis 7 CE, in which the lost golden age is depicted as a place and time when, because nature and reason were harmoniously aligned, men were naturally good. And I think this is a poem of such. The golden age was first, when man, yet new, no rule but uncorrupted reason knew, and with a native bent did good pursue, unforced by punishment, unawed by fear. His words were simple and his soul sincere. Needless was written law where none oppressed. The law of man was written in his breast.
That's a beautiful encapsulation of what the spirit of the Golden Age must have been, when we all had perfect, in my opinion, telepathic communication. And
those
again,
were the days.
Yeah, there was no law because it wasn't necessary. There was no punishment because it wasn't necessary. Reason. Imagine a world that was governed by reason, Dave. And I'm not talking about like some kind of Vulcan kind of thing. No. That's because that's a bit sterile, right? but just imagine a world where reason and common sense actually took hold, where none of the follies that we all are subject to every day existed, like bigotry, racism, sexism, ageism, any of the isms. There's
violence,
never
theft,
violence. Yeah, absolutely. Death. Good point. And where you just have this innate, and we all still have it. That's the kicker,
Yeah.
We all still have this innate sense of right and wrong, even without being taught. Even without being taught, as we come to a certain age. And most cultures have very similar standards. I mean, there's some, fairly significant departures from culture to culture, but overall, it's a fairly common set of rules that exist. And just imagine if people would just do it because they could. Imagine, Dave, imagine for a second, what would happen if tomorrow all consequences would be pulled, would be taken away? So whatever you do,
it'd be a madhouse.
It'd be a madhouse. There'd be no police, no jails.
It'd be like the Purge.
It would be like the Purge.
It would
be exactly like the Purge.
I was going to say, when you said imagine, I was going to say I can imagine quite a bit. I think it would be... I think the word bedlam is a great word to use.
Yes, agreed. And where would it be worst, do you think, this bedlam? I don't know. Cities?
I could look serious, because I could look out my window.
Oh, no, but would it be... Do you think it'd be city or country or...
It would be cities, for sure.
I agree.
Given
100%.
the choice.
I think the smaller the community...
Because it's a community.
And
everybody
less
knows each other.
Bingo. And
because
look...
they're the magic ingredients of a working society. It's where everyone knows each other. The moment you get to a city, and I could say it's overpopulated from a community perspective. Your community might be the building you live in, but you don't like everyone and you don't know everyone, and there's always someone who's awful, and you might know that if you say live in New York, you might know the doorman better than anyone else in the building.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah.
But anonymity is the thing that protects you from the other people, but that's also the cause of the distress.
And if you cast your mind to the movies that you just mentioned, The Purge, most of the purges wear masks, right? It is the anonymity and the hiding in crowds, in mobs, as it were, that empowers great evil, in fact, because individually, and this is true, and we've discussed this before, if there were, and there have been studies done, if there were someone collapsing in the street next to you, and you're the only person there, 9.9 times out of 10 you would help.
That's right.
100%.
Yep.
You have, and that percentage goes down the more people you add into the mix.
That's right.
Until you come to this god-awful scene. I don't know if you remember this, it was on the news. It was in China, a city in China. And I think it was a schoolgirl. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think it was a child that had been run over by a truck or something.
Yep.
And that was there on the side of the road. In a busy street with pedestrians coming all along. It was very busy, a lot of people there. And not a single person helped that child.
No, that's right.
I mean, if you want to know how we function as people, that's how we function as people.
Likewise, though, I've seen someone on camera, this is footage, being struck by a vehicle, and the best they got for help was just moving them out of the traffic's way, and that was the end of that. So other cars wouldn't be inconvenienced.
Oh, that's dreadful. That is awful.
It was really terrible. But look, if that's where we live, and that's how it is, does that mean that we need to fix it? I'd say so.
Look,
I think we have to have a hard look at ourselves.
We have no choice but to fix this. And this is the ultimate problem that we have, right? We have, and I go back to there's never been, in my memory, there hasn't been a golden time. There's always been misery in the world, all that. Historically speaking, there has never been anywhere. I mean, mythologically, there seem to have been golden times. That's wonderful to know. But ultimately, we are living in a very brutal age right now, right? where suffering exists on a magnitude simply because of population numbers, right? That is completely unheard of in history. The people that die out of hunger and disease and so forth every year, those numbers never existed before, and not just the people, but the environment, the animals. We have never held this many animals in such awful conditions ever in recorded history. Not ever. Not ever. You can't find a time in history where the numbers would be anywhere near this. No. Prehistory and others, who knows? But right now, the last 10,000 years, not really. And we're talking here about billions of animals. And see, Dave, this is.
So I'm just gonna quickly say, to support your argument, the amount of animals, like native species or animals lost in this current 10,000 year period, historically in the future, when we're only, an inch of soil is all that's left from this civilization, it would have appeared as though there was a mass extinction.
Yeah.
On a scale not seen since the Cambrian.
You're absolutely 100% correct. This is one of the great extinction periods, even though we don't think so because we're fine, right? But sometimes I wonder, Dave, if, and this is to your point of this mass extinction, if there isn't, and I want to get all Star Warsy here with the Force and all that, but if there isn't like this great unease in the world that exists because of this incredible cruelty. Now, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not pretending to be vegetarian, but I do source my meat and eggs from what is purported to be free range and organic. So hopefully that's true, where the animals had a good life, and the chickens are kept in how a chicken should live. And I pay a lot for my meat. I don't have it a lot. I don't have a lot of meat, but I pay a lot for it. And I do hope that I'm getting what I think I'm getting, where the animal has lived a full life and a good life at least, right? Doing its natural things, not being forced to live in a one by one, a little tiny cubicle or whatever. So that, to me, that's horrendous.
I totally agree. My uncle had a farm, and he had pigs, and he would talk to the pigs. They just weren't over there. I'm pointing somewhere randomly in a distance. He had cows, and they used to have a bull that they shared amongst the local farms that would have a big smile on his face once a year, right? He'd come around and do his thing, and then they get little calves. And an entire cow would last a very long time for a family to eat it.
Yeah.
It really does.
Nothing went to waste.
No, that's right. Yes, that's the beauty of it all. And the pigs were cut up and made bacon and sold, and the chickens with all the eggs. All of the creatures were loved, petted, because it wasn't just an anonymous animal that you had in like vast numbers, right, feeding for populations. It was only for yourselves.
100%.
Hand-fed, man.
But I mentioned but right now we're so far. I mean, it's coming back. Like, it's coming back a lot. I mean, it can't be a mass production, of course. So it is expensive compared to what you could otherwise buy. But if you can afford it, I implore you to consider it. And I know not everybody can afford it. I get it. That's a dreadful thing. Having said that, just cast your mind back 100 years. Maybe not even about 100 years. That's all people had. That kind of. There was no industrial farming, industrial animal keeping. This didn't exist. Even in especially in the States, you should know this, right? You had these massive cattle tracks. There were these cowboys, and they got the cattle grazing wherever they were, right?
Yep.
And then they would take them on this massive track to wherever they had to be sold and slaughtered.
That's right.
Right, but nobody thought of locking them up all their life, somewhere. Same with pigs and whatnot. I mean, we just didn't have this concept of high intensity farming.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And now for plants, well, you can argue. Well, I mean, why not? Sure, but I'm not really for GMO myself. But for animals, it's just I mean, if you look at some of the images that are available, and this is the truth, right? Of battery chickens and pigs that are kept in kennels that are too small for them.
Yeah.
I mean, if that was the only type of meat that was available, I'd rather go without it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it is only our mass consumption, Dave, and this is really interesting. That's a Western thing as well. And I know it's not really off topic because it's all part of why we're no longer the golden age, I guess. If that's the only thing available, then we shouldn't have it. And think about that for a second. It's only our massive appetites that has led to both deforestation and massive cattle herds and massive intensive farming of animals, where we kill billions of chickens every year to feed our never-ending appetites. I mean, you know, it used to be that the French king said, I can't remember which don't nail me down on it. It was one of the Louis, I'm sure. He said every French farmer or peasant should have a chicken on Sunday.
That's right.
They should be able to have a chicken, like a nice chicken dinner on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sustainable. That's sustainable.
You know, chicken was so expensive when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That we couldn't afford it.
Yeah, well, there's that as well, right?
Yeah.
And also offal. I grew up on offal because, you know, it was inexpensive, more or less, and it was also good. I mean, we cooked with it, and liver and whatnot.
Offal is awful.
And I love it. I do. I still do. But the kicker here is this: we should not, and again, I'm not a vegetarian. We should not consume as much meat as we do, right? For various reasons, and one of them is health. But if we consumed reasonable amounts of meat amongst us, reasonable, and bear in mind, in some parts of the world, they get no meat, right?
Oh yeah,
totally. From cows or chickens or anything like that. Nothing, zero.
Yeah.
We would be better off. So you don't have to have steak every day. You don't have to have a burger every day. You don't have to have chicken every day. You don't. I mean, the Italian cuisine is really great. You look at the Italian cuisine. Yes, there's meat, but ultimately not a lot.
No, it's the same at home here. We eat the equivalent amount of meat as about 10%, or just a little greater, maybe 11, 12% of the entirety of the meal. It's very small. It's kind of like if you had a stir fry.
Yeah.
Right? And that's about the amount that we eat per person. And I think that's enough. Yeah. I've got friends, Meki, that are from India and they're total vegetarians. Total. 100%.
Yep.
Killing of an animal to survive is just not a thing you're allowed to do. Right? It's not even a thought. And I have to commend them for doing that. I know that we live in a different place. We have access to more. If there was a chance that I could ever have enough money to live on a farm and live off-grid, I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. I'd have the cows and the pigs and the chickens and horses and you know some large kind of beast of burden to help me plow. I would do all that.
Yeah,
I would. I really would.
Look, the funny thing is this, right? And again, this is not really off topic because you have to think about the golden age here as well and what it really means for people, right? I mean, in my mind, it entails happiness. Clearly, you need to be happy, you know, and not just content or okay, but truly happy. And I know that when I was younger,
that's a bit of a chasm.
I know
between content and happy.
But when I was younger, I felt really great at the end of the day if I had done a hard day's labor. I mean, hard day's labor, right? Where I was sweating and dirty, and I had been working for 8-10 hours and doing something, you know, like labor versus, you know, something, a brickiest labor or something, whatever. But even doing garden work, you know, like because I used to mow lawns, you know, in the summer and such, right? And I only had hand tools. There's no electric tools then.
Oh, goodness!
And I still use hand tools, but
my dad had a push mower, and that was an awful thing if you hit a rock or a stick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You had to sharpen them too.
Then.
In Germany, we had a push mower. It did the job. But the point is that this kind of physical labor gives you peace and happiness. It does. You feel really good. you feel really good at the end of the day, right? When you have your meal and you sit there and you just relax, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
And it, because I don't think we would enjoy sloth, and I don't think the golden age was an age of sloth. I don't think so, right? But again, each to their own, right? And all this disease that we see now, this is all a function of how we live.
Mm-hmm.
Autism, any other disorder that we see here, right? The growing number of cancers that we all battle. It's a complete correlation to our lifestyles, completely.
Yeah.
And again, in the golden age, because we had telepathic communication. I know this sounds crazy. I understand.
I'm with you, Mickey, on this one.
But why would you need Wi-Fi if you have telepathic communication?
That's exactly right.
Unnecessary. You would potentially. I'm not saying you could, but you could potentially access the Akashic record directly, right? Which is the sum total of all human knowledge and wisdom, etc.
All the universes.
Yeah, all the universes, in fact.
That's
yeah.
right.
Good point.
But Becky,
So-
this is kind of segues into the other golden ages. You could take.
Okay. So there are other golden ages, obviously, here, right? And they are analogous concepts in the religious and philosophical traditions of the South Asian subcontinent. For example, the Vedic or ancient Hindu cultures saw history as cyclical, composed of yugas. Yugas just means age, with alternating dark and golden ages. The Kali Yuga, the Iron Age, the Dwapara Yuga, the Bronze Age, the Treta Yuga, the Silver Age, and the Satya Yuga, the Golden Age. Interesting how that even the metals are corresponding. They correspond to the 4 Greek ages. Similar beliefs occur in the ancient Middle East and throughout the ancient world overall, really, to be honest with you. I'll quickly take us to the Hindu, and then you can take the Brahma Kumaris. The Indian teachings differentiate the 4 world ages, the yugas, not according to metals, but according to quality, with truth being the feature of the Golden Age. After the world fall at the end of the 4th worst age, the Kali Yuga, named after the messianic figure Kali, the cycle should be continued, eventually culminating in a new Golden Age. The Krita Yuga, also known as the Satya Yuga, the first and perfect age, as described in the Mahabharata, a Hindu epic, is as follows, and I'm taking this now from the Mahabharata. Men neither bought nor sold. There were no poor and no rich. There was no need to labor, because all that men required was obtained by the power of will. The chief virtue was the abandonment of all worldly desires. The Krita Yuga was without disease. There was no lessening with the years. Again, this idea of staying, virile into old age. There was no hatred or vanity or evil thought whatsoever. No sorrow, no fear. All mankind could attain to supreme blessedness. And I imagine in a telepathic society, that's exactly what you would find. Satya Yuga lasts for 1,728,000 years. Treta Yuga, 1,296,000 years. Dvapara Yuga, 864,000 years, and luckily, Kali Yuga only 432,000 years. According to the Puranas, there are 71 such cycles in the life of Manu, whose life duration is 306 million years. The reign of 14 Manus, 4.32 billion years, comprises one day called the Kalpa of Brahma. Knowledge, meditation, and communion with spirit hold special importance in this era. The average life expectancy of a human being in Satya Yuga is believed to be about 100,000 years. That duration of life declines in next age, Treta Yuga, to 10,000 years, followed by Dvapara Yuga, 1,000 years, and Kali Yuga, where we are, up to 100 years. During Satya Yuga, most people engage only in good sublime deeds, and mankind lives in harmony with the earth. Ashrams become devoid of wickedness and deceit. Natyam, such as Bharatantyam, according to Natya Shastra, did not exist in the Satya Yuga because it was the time when all people were happy. Now, again, Dave, it's again the life. Like, this isn't, it's hundreds of thousands of years, then tens of thousands of years.
That's right.
Thousands of years, and we see this in the Bible as well. It's reflected in ancient Greek. It's reflected everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sumerians talk about it as well, and so do the Egyptians. Look, it is the thing. So the Brahma Kumaras and Prajapita Brahma Kumaras make reference to 5 yuga, or eras, in a single cycle of 5,000 years, in which the Golden Age, or Satra Yuga, is the first and lasts for 1,250 years. 3 of the remaining 4, the Tirtha Yuga, the Silver Age, and the Dwapar Yuga, Copper Age, and the Kali Yuga, Iron Age, also last for 1,250 years each. The 5th age, the Sangam Yuga, the Confluence Age, is given to the last 100 years of the 4th age and represents the period when Iron Age is destroyed and the next Golden Age is created. A world drama is the story of the rise and fall of human souls during their sojourn in this world. It is about the interplay of souls, matter and God, and of the different stages through which human souls pass in 5 different epochs or acts of this drama. The drama begins with the Golden Age, when every soul expresses its original qualities of purity, peace, love and truth, and human relationships are marked by complete harmony. The virtuous nature of these divine beings is mirrored by nature, which is in its pristine state and serves humans with abundance. This is the time remembered as heaven or paradise by humanity. Golden Age is the time when the human beings are full of all the divine virtues and have all the 7 qualities: peace, purity, love, wisdom, happiness, power, and bliss to the fullest. And henceforth they are called deities, that we remember them as were our ancestors and whose divinity is worshipped in Hindu temples. The Silver Age comes after Golden Age, where as time goes by, the souls who are actors in this drama undergo a gradual decline. By Act 2, the number of souls has increased significantly, and though all are still happy and prosperous, the radiance and fullness that characterized their lives is no more. Meditation energizes your awareness, bringing both peace and wisdom to a busy mind. It expands one capacity to love and heals broken hearts. It also dissolves many fears, replacing them with lightness and freedom from anxiety. Mackie.
It's incredible, and that brings us to the Norse mythology. The Old Norse word Gulaldir, literally Golden Age, was used in Völuspá to describe the period after Ragnarok, when the surviving gods and their progeny built the city Gimle on the ruins of Asgard. And now in Northern mythology, Gimle, or Gimli in Icelandic, is a place where the survivors, the worthy survivors of Ragnarok, are foretold to live. It is mentioned in the Prose Edda and the Eddic poem Völuspá, and described as the most beautiful place in Asgard, more beautiful than the sun. Now there's an etymology to the word. The meaning of the name is fire lee, or fire shelter, or in Liam Hollander's view, a scholar, more likely gem roof. Now within Asgard, the realm of the gods, Gimli is a golden roofed building where righteous men go when they die. In the Prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson places it in Vlöblein, which he describes as a third heaven currently inhabited only by the light elves. And Völuspá, which he quotes in one of his accounts of Gimli, the hall is on Gimli, presumably a mountain rather than being itself called Gimli. Snorri presents Gimli as a pagan heaven. Scholars, including Hollander and Rudolf Steig, have seen the description of Gimli as influenced by the Christian heavenly Jerusalem. Ursula Dronke suggested that while the concept of a heaven in which hosts of the righteous lived together was based on the pagan Valhalla, the Feldspar poet or his associates invented the name Gimli with reference to its protecting the blessed from the fires both of Surtur at Ragnarok and the Christian hell.
Oh, the Bible. There is a reference to a succession of kingdoms in Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 2, in decreasing order identified as gold, silver, bronze, iron, and finally mixed iron and clay. This is 31 to 35, but 31. Your Majesty looked, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. 32. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze. 33. Its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. 34. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. 35. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver and the gold were all broken into pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth.
It's certainly very allegorical. Not sure what to make of that, other than the reference, to the metals and potentially again, to the different ages it might represent. But also, it seems that these ages are coming to an end at some point, and are replaced with, well, whatever, maybe new beginning. So I don't know. Probably don't have enough time for.
Oh, we can. It's Utopia. Go for it.
Yeah, I think we can do Utopia. So now, of course, there are a lot of different kinds of golden ages in mystical lands, utopian lands. So Utopia, of course, being the most well-known, it's an imagined community or society that possesses highly desirable or nearly perfect qualities for its citizens. The opposite of a utopia is a dystopia. One could also say that utopia is a perfect place that has been designed so there are no problems. Utopian ideals often place emphasis on egalitarian principles of equality in economics, government, and justice, though by no means exclusively, with the method and structure of proposed implementation varying based on ideology. The term utopia was coined from Greek by Sir Thomas More in his 1516 book Utopia, fortunately named that way, describing a fictional island society in the South Atlantic off the coast of South America. The word comes from Greek, O-U, not, and tonos, place, meaning no place. So, and strictly describes any non-existent society described in considerable detail. So it's like, almost like reminiscent of the name of Captain Nemo in 80,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Nemo means nobody, and utopia literally means no place. Right? No, it's no place. However, in standard usage, the word's meaning has narrowed and now usually describes a non-existent society that is intended to be viewed as considerably better than contemporary society. Utopia, derived from Greek eu, good or well, and tonos, again place, meaning good place, is strictly speaking the correct term to describe a positive utopia. Now this is utopia with EU instead of just a U. In English, utopia and utopia are homophones, which may have given rise to the change in meaning. Okay, so utopia with EU is no place, and utopia with an EU is a good place.
That's good. I'm staring at the next one. You have to take this one. I can't do that.
All right. Cocaine or Schlaraffenland. Cocaine or cocaine, it's different spelling here, is a land of plenty. And I grew up with this fable, if you will, where it's part of the German fable history, I guess, the heritage. It's a land of plenty in medieval myth, an imaginary place of extreme luxury and ease, where physical comforts and pleasures are always immediately at hand, and where the harshness of medieval peasant life doesn't exist. Specifically, in poems like The Land of Cocaine, Cocaine is a land of contraries, where all the restrictions of society are defied. Abbots, for example, are beaten by their monks, sexual liberty is open, nuns flip over to show their bottoms. Food is plentiful, skies that rain cheeses. Writing about cocaine was a commonplace of Goliath verse. It represented both wish fulfillment and resentment of the strictures of asceticism and death. Now, Schlaraffenland is actually in German folklore goes, in my mind, deeper as describing this land of plenty. Now, the etymology. While the first recorded uses of the word are the Latin cocanensis and the Middle English cocaine, one line of reasoning has the name tracing to Middle French, Pays de Cocaine, land of plenty, ultimately adapted or derived from a word for a small sweet cake sold to children at a fair. In Ireland, it was mentioned in the Kildare poems, they composed about 1350. In Italian, the same place is called Paese della Cusiana. The Flemish Belgian equivalent is Lucaland, a relaxed, luscious, delicious land, translated from the Middle Belgian word Cocagen, and the German equivalent, of course, is Schlaraffenland. In Spain, the equivalent place is named Jauja, after a rich mining region of the Andes, and Pays de Cucagna, Fool's Paradise, may also signify such a place. From Swedish dialect lubba, fat lazy fellow, comes Lubbaland, popularized in the ballad an invitation to Lubbaland. In the 1820s, the name cocaine came to be applied jocularly to London as the land of cockneys, though the two are not linguistically connected otherwise. The composer Edward Elgar used the title cocaine for his concert overture and sued evoking the people of London. Again, Cocaine, London Town, 1901. The Dutch villages of Konkingen and Keukenage were named after cocaine. The surname cocaine also derives from the mythical land and was originally a nickname for an idle dreamer. Dave?
Like Atlantis and El Dorado, the land of cocaine was a utopia, a fictional place where, in a parody of paradise, idleness and gluttony were the principal occupations. In specimens of early English poets from 1790, George Ellis printed a 13th century French poem called The Land of Cocaine, where the houses were made of barley, sugar and cakes, the streets were paved with pastry and the shops supplied goods for nothing. According to Herman Plege, Dreaming of Cocaine, Medieval Fantasies of the Perfect Life from 2001, here's a quote: "Roasted pigs wander about with knives in their backs to make carving easy, where grilled geese fly directly into one's mouth, where cooked fish jump out of the water and land at one's feet. The weather is always mild, the wine flows freely, sex is readily available, and all people enjoy eternal youth." Cocaine was a medieval peasant's dream, offering relief from the back-breaking labour in their daily struggle for meagre food. The Brothers Grimm collected and retold of the fairy tale in Das Märchen vom Schlaraffenland, the tale about the land of cocaine.
A Neapolitan tradition extended to other Latin culture countries is the cocaine pole, in Italia cocagna, Spanish cocagna. A horizontal or vertical pole with a prize, like a ham, at one end. The pole is covered with grease or soap and planted during a festival. Then, daring people try to climb the slippery pole to get the prize. The crowd laughs at the often failed attempts to hold onto the pole. And there's a certain legacy as well as I'm not sure if we're probably not.
Oh, good luck.
No, maybe not. We'll leave it. The music should be coming any second now, right?
Oh, yeah, pretty close.
But yeah, this is not going to elucidate anyone much further. Next week we're going to talk about Arcadia. That's very interesting, in fact. The Peach Blossom Spring, another interesting place. El Dorado as well, of course. We'll get there. We'll talk about that a bit. Search for El Dorado, because people actually looked for it. You know, not people actually looked for El Dorado. A lot of them, I think. There's also Goloka, we're going to talk about. A whole bunch of stuff. Eridu, and many others. Still Moon.
Well, guess what? That's the music. This is the end of Shiny Side Out for today. Catch us on Tuesday and Thursday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern US time for Plato's Cave. We'll see you again next week for Shiny Side Out with David Mackey. But what do we say, Mackey?
Be safe!